viewers. All right, so Mike, uh, you were able to commentate with us for the first tournament, and then you missed the second one because you got married. So congratulations. I just wanted to tell our viewers first that that's amazing. We all
Yeah,
congratulate.
appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, my name's Mike Janela. So I have been not in like the par community for a month or so now because yep, got married, went to Spain, was there for a couple weeks. Been back, settling into married life. 1 month today, actually. So celebrating my 1 month anniversary with you guys here on Twitch and you, Toto, and all the great par players that we're pumped to be watching tonight. But I'm excited because that first tournament that I was involved in with you was exciting. It was thrilling to the end, and now pumped to do it all over again.
Yes, absolutely. And a lot has changed since the first tournament. Mostly technical changes for the better. We've have a slightly shorter format, and uh, but we are doing more sit and go, so more in the style of everyone in the same game, and then a slightly smaller bracket. And other than that, I would just say the influx of talent has been quite insane. That we have some world class quizzers who have joined these tournaments on a very consistent basis.
Which you like. You want to be competing against the best and seeing how you hang with them. And it looks like everybody's ready to do that now tonight. So let's lock and load. Here we go.
All right, so we are all in the spectate, viewers and myself. You can follow along either within just part of the app, just the spectate, or you can follow along on Twitch with Mike and me, or you can do both. So right off the bat, we have science. Mike, I'm doing your job. Sorry, this is
I know, Toto. I'm like, hey, you take it over for me, man. Fine by me. We got one question in the book. It's spleen, and we got a lot of people there. Ben, though, ahead of everybody else, going 8 under par. And now with Stiletto, Ben just extends the lead. So, Toto, while we kick this thing off, for anyone that is not familiar with the game, quick rules you mentioned before. This is kind of like golf where it's to par is your score. So the faster you get the answer in, the more strokes you're under. You can follow, if you're watching on Twitch, that par number for each new question. For right now, for example, par 13. 13 seconds would be the average expected score. But as you see right now, if you put in Vivaldi in
three
3 seconds,
seconds.
right, then you get it
we
at 10
we may have
under.
severely underestimated the ability of some of these players because there more than two people, two players, Greg and Tubaman, both got it in -10. So that was amazing.
So time to readjust the course maybe next time on this question, Toto.
Yes, they
I
caught
like
on to
this. We go from
something.
classical music now to popular music. So you go from Vivaldi to Johnny Cash, Man in Black. Incredible. While people are still putting their answers in for the new viewers, Toto, explain how this works. You might be seeing now, if you're watching, the cutoff line there on the right. Explain how we're moving on to a second round, a third round, and then how this is going to actually crown one champion tonight.
Yes, thanks, Mike. So the cutoff at every round for these large style of games, what we call sit and go games, is half. So in this game, there's 33 players, so 16 would be cut and 17 would be remaining, the top 17 scores. In the next round, it would go from 17 to 9, and then in one more round in that format, it would go from 9 to 4. And then once we are down to the final four, then it goes into a bracket of one on
All right,
ones.
Toto, I got to stop you because when a sports question comes up, it's one of the few times I feel on the same level as some of our great players. So I got to enjoy this one. But icing, yeah, a lot of people. Goblin Bong now making a quick run to take over the top. But Toto, I love the fact that it is that, half the people make it, half the people make it. But then at the end, it comes down to head to head. You got to
Yes.
compete against one other person. And that's where the nerves, I think, get a little bit different. The adrenaline gets a little bit different as we go now to cosmetics companies. And how have you noticed so far the difference between people in group play versus how things change once it gets to that end game that we're hoping y'all stick around for tonight?
You set me up for this one so well. I wanted to talk about this in one.
Good, good,
Yeah,
good.
there haven't we all heard the stories about how when players would group with Tiger, that they would somehow play worse because of the head to head aspect, like seeing the same strokes that you and Tiger are taking. I definitely feel like there's an element of that in heads up play here because when their score comes up -7 and you don't even have a clue what the answer is yet, and you see their score move and the time is just ticking on your clock, it definitely it definitely has a weird mental toll. For sure it does. And some of our players, like Rowan in particular, have talked about how important it is to train against uh, having that internal conflict. Uh, so I'm sure that they navigate it very well, but others it may be just that slight edge that you need to
It's that's
succeed.
one of the great things that I love about this as a spectator and as someone that's now been involved in calling a couple of these is that it does take a lot of different skill sets, right? It's not just recall and it's not just quick typing and it's not just being able to outlast and also have a wide breadth of knowledge, but you got to be quick now in the group play. Because it's not like if you're playing Jeopardy and you can focus on the same category for 5 clues. You have to go from art and architecture. We just went from Magneto to Henry Moore, right? And who knows what's coming next for as we're halfway through our first round here. Now we're going to history, which could go in any direction. But then you need that mental part of it. You need that competitiveness. You're a basketball guy. That Michael Jordan, that Kobe Bryant gene, right? When you're trying to go after somebody one-on-one. So you need a
Absolutely.
lot of different skills that come together over the course of one of these tournaments to come out on top.
These are some of the top players in the world right now, and we can see that Rowan has taken an early lead. Goblin Bong, Greg Shahadi behind them.
So give us a little bit of scouting reports. You know these players as well as anybody. If anyone's doubting the caliber of the talent that we have here tonight, shout out some of the players we should be keeping an eye on. And obviously the ones at the top of the leaderboard are doing that for themselves. But who are some folks that we should keep an eye on?
Oh, absolutely. I'll just go right off the top. Rowan needs no introduction. Jeopardy's second chance tournament. They're always correcting me what the exact nomenclature, but very prestigious Jeopardy award uh, winner.
And who won the first
And
tournament
yes,
that we
thank you.
held
And
of this very
who
competition.
won the Alpha tournament and the first Beta tournament? So 2 out of 3 so far. Um, I was gonna say Greg, but then the scoreboard changed so fast. Kyle Daly, very high level OQL player. Uh, Evan Lynch is EWL, one of the legends of the UK quizzing scene. Um, Ben's Ben Chan,
And
Andrew
another
Heap.
tournament winner,
Yep.
Evan of par here.
Yes. And then did I skip over Greg? Yeah, I say this every time, but it bears repeating. Greg's like an almost grandmaster in chess. So we have a bunch. I'm gonna keep saying it every single time. We have a bunch of overlap everywhere.
Which you kind of need to go back to that point I was making earlier that it's a lot of different skills that you need to bring together. And so Chess Grandmaster, I'm sure, in a lot of ways can help in a game like par.
Yes, absolutely.
And now, right now, you got to do some quick math. So this is rare. We don't see too many of these, Toto. You're the commissioner of this league. How often are we going to be seeing questions where you actually got to do a little bit of arithmetic, or in this case, geometry, and break out the napkin to draw a triangle while you're playing at
You
home?
know, it's funny. Like, it's been the point of controversy in the community. Some people think math really has no business being in trivia, and other people think it's a refreshing alternative. And it does exist. When I played in Quiz Bowl, I definitely remember computational questions. So it is in some formats. Ultimately, it just came down to like, I think they're really cool questions. And also, like, the question we had just now about the 5, 12, 13 right triangle, like that's a common triple in the field of math. That to me is like remembering a fact no different than remembering a trivia fact, because no one's
That's a
like
good
you
way to
said, no
do
one's
it. Yeah.
busting out a pen and paper to do like 5, 12 and then measure the hypotenuse. No, you just happen to know that 5, 12, 13 is a common triple, as is like 3, 4, 5 and 6, 8, 10 and some others. So it is like, in that way, I think it is a trivia fact.
Yeah, if you look at it, that's an interesting way to put it. It's like memorizing the beginning of the Fibonacci sequence or pi. I guess you're not going to be actually, computing anything like
Yeah.
that. But we love controversy. We love spice in the trivia world. So thanks for stoking those fires. We're coming down to the final couple of questions here in round one. We've got 33 players. At this point in the game is where it's really instructive to look at that cutoff line, because just like the relegation battle in a European soccer league, that's where a lot of the drama is happening. So right now, Hot Pie and Boy have a 5-stroke lead on a couple of folks trying to make that cutoff, but some couple of big moves with 2 questions left can shake up big time who makes that next round. And just like that, look, Hot Pie and Boy gave themselves a little bit of breathing room, knowing that Black Flag was that 2013 installment of Assassin's Creed. Wow, 10 years, I can't believe, since that game came out. Crazy.
Yes, and thank you for reminding me because as I just did, and our viewers can follow along, you can. This is a dynamic view. You can show whichever players you want to follow. So just now, I before I was watching the top eight, and then I switched it to watching just the people at the cut line. So thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, this is where we can follow really who is either on the outside looking in or vice versa to the
And
next
a
round.
lot of people that were on the inside looking out just got bounced. Look at all that red that you see near the cutoff line, which had a huge shakeup on who ended up making it on the cut. Up top, shout out to Kyle, who had a commanding finish there. 74 under, 11 seconds faster on aggregate than Matt. And then even behind him, a pretty big jump to Greg Shahadi in third. And then you start seeing everyone kind of settle down and I guess a little less of a standard deviation there. Andrew and Rowan rounding out the top five. Congrats on making the cut down there. Best Ken ever. And Kevin, who only 9 under, but was enough. Justin T. McSee, Tuberman, and Tat Makimoto all were under par, but just like in real golf, like sometimes close is not good enough. Just being under par is not good enough to make that cut. 18 people. Moving on. Toto, thoughts on that first round?
Oh, this is where I wish we had instant replay, which I'm sure will be coming in the coming few production cycles, just to be able to review the tape and see exactly how a person overtook a position. And I noticed like ZSG, Zach, and Best Ken were on the cusp, and I remember we interviewed them both last time because they both got in dramatically. And this is some players just and they were both really fun interviews. Like
just live. Some people just love living on that line and pushing it. And I'm looking in the chat here. Congrats to Dr. Dave in Chicago. Said I made it finally. You made it comfortably right there in that 9 spot. But congrats to Dr. Dave and everyone else that's either made the cut for the 10th time or just for the first time tonight.
Yeah,
see what happens now when we cut this in half even more.
I'm looking at the top 16. Yeah, Kevin, I'm not all too familiar with. BWEH, I've seen that name, but I can't remember who that is. And then yes, like you said, Dr. Dave. I think it's the first time. So couple of surprises, couple of people who are definitely happy to be here.
Love the new blood, baby. Love the new blood. Always helps make this a little bit more exciting for everybody. And I guess this is a good point to tell people if you're watching, next time play. Tell everybody that you know that likes trivia, that thinks they're a fast typer or a quick Googler maybe in a different window. You're not going to win. I think these people are too fast to be outwitted with multiple tabs and things like that. But anybody thinks they can get a shot at this, bring them on down.
But here's the thing: once we start offering prize money, once we start getting big sponsorships, the reason I love this format is at that point it's a pure meritocracy. Anyone can just, if they're good enough, sign up, and then if they win, they can win. You're not at the mercy of being selected by TV producers or of that nature. So I think I think it has a very exciting end game.
It's knowledge, it's speed, and right now it's the final 18 people going into round 2. Well, we went triangles in round 1, pentagons in round 2 to start us off with the math question, and we've got a 3-way tie at the top, 7 under par on that first question. Now going back to architecture here, and at what point, Toto, in a typical 20 question set, do you feel like the positions really start solidifying themselves? Like at what point is it maybe you're a bit too far off the pace to make a meaningful comeback?
That's a great question. I think like statistically, obviously, it's like think of them as innings of baseball or frames in bowling. Like statistically, 5 points on question 1 is obviously every bit as important as 5 points on question 20. But there is something like statistically.
It feels different, though. It feels different, right?
Statistically, they're of the group in, let's say they're collectively about 5 to 8 strokes behind. One of them statistically will get like a -10 because they just recognize a word or they have a hunch so much that one of them would come through for sure. So anything is possible.
Now, I love, and this is goaltending. Shout out. We always love when the basketball questions come in because that's something near and dear to both of our hearts.
Yes.
Someone there, though, I forgot the name, When they saw sports before the question even came up, they just typed in Yankees. Explain that strategy, Toto, of just typing something in, and even though it's a one in literally maybe a billion shot of it being right.
So yeah, I basically you're at all times welcome to guess whatever you want. That would in some times you need a Hail Mary. The penalty system is pretty simple. It's fair, but uh, yeah, it's fair is the best way of putting it. If you guess a wrong guess at any time before the letters show up, you get a one stroke penalty and you're locked out for 1 second. And in one on one, you actually show your opponent your wrong answer. But after the letters start popping up, you can guess without penalty. So it is you can Hail Mary ridiculous scores, but there is a penalty attached for plays of a more luck circumstance, we could say.
And before we get into a quick check of the scoreboard, which is shaken and bacon, and we already have Mike Cood with a nice 6 point lead right now, heading to the midway point. This is new. These shiny P's for pristine on certain answers. What are those all
Yes.
about?
Oh, yes. So one of the biggest points of feedback we got from our players was that the spelling requirements were too stringent, and admittedly, I was against giving leniency at first, but eventually we decided, okay, what's a fun and fair way of doing it? Basically, we use an algorithm to determine if your answer was close enough, and to varying degrees of how off you were, you may get a +2 penalty, a +1 penalty, both of which are basically forgiveness because it would have taken more than 2 seconds to fix some of these mistakes. But then if you get a pristine, meaning you type it completely correctly on your first guess with perfect spelling, you actually get a -1 reward.
As the winner of the St. Casimir's Elementary School third grade spelling bee in 1993, that makes my heart sing, Toto. That you reward, you don't penalize bad spelling. We appreciate that too across the community, but that you reward perfect spelling out of the
Yes.
gate. That's good stuff. Hang a star on that.
Yes.
All right, we're halfway through. So as we now move into the back half of the second round, quick check of the scores. Andrew has taken the lead now. He's at 29 under. Hot Pie right behind him. Hot Pie, he was down below the cut just a couple questions ago, making a big move. But now you can see how quickly things change
A
because
bunch of
Guitar Hero
people.
came on fire for a lot of people. Look at this: two -10s, a 9 under, a couple, two nines, a couple eights. All it takes is a question like that, and a lot of people that were maybe out of this thing are right back in it.
If they saw video games, they saw I Love Rock. They immediately their minds were like, okay, that's from Guitar
How many
Hero.
could it be in
Yeah,
that case? I
that's
mean,
that
yeah.
is insanely good intuition. Yes.
So Andrew right back on top. And it must feel nice. And we can't talk to our players live because they're obviously a little bit preoccupied. But it must feel great when you get one within the first 3 seconds, not only because you get the points and you're moving up the leaderboard, you can relax for a little bit. You can take a little breath
Yeah.
while everyone else is still
You don't have to
typing, kind
harp
of
on every
recompose
word.
yourself.
Exactly.
Right, exactly. It's a nice little breather within the game.
So
All
what?
right,
So,
here are the sledges. Something that I think so many of us read in high school,
wow, it's a little
and
surprising.
everyone got this one right. Just a matter of how long it took.
I think it's very surprising that Evan is out of the cut right now. EWL. He won our second tournament and he is consistently rated #1 on our leaderboard.
Well, he's not too far off the cut. And
Oh,
look,
he got
right
a good
there, a
score
five
there. Yep.
under gets him right back within knocking distance. He's now just three back of making that cut. That was a big swing for him. Second fastest to answer, right behind Hot Pie, to know that Jude, say hey to him, was the answer for question number 14. All
Yes.
right, five left, and we go to theater. Shakespeare is something that is a requisite in the trivia world. And looks like Kyle was the one that knew it fastest, but enough people knew it fast enough to push him right back down. And we're still seeing some smoke settling here.
Yep. A
And look at
question
that.
like
Evan has now made it on the right side of the cut line.
a question like that is how quickly can you react to that specific quote? And I've once again changed my view to the cut line. Uh, let's start talking about. I know I love laying the deck for our viewers, but let's say we actually like talk about some questions. Let's start reacting to some of these clues. How's that
That's true.
sound?
Well, Wendy's is always a good one,
When
and I
and
think it's the only fast
my
food chain
favorite
I know that
place.
serves a baked potato.
All
So
right,
that should have been a giveaway right away. And now you're coming up another one of my
NBC sitcoms.
alleys,
Oh, Kyle got
1990s
it.
sitcoms. Mad About You. This is a classic.
There you go. There's your mind is primed once you see 90s NBC, and then out of the 7 or 8 choices, you start reacting. Yep.
Yeah, and it's what you click. What clicks for you first? The number of letters. How many three-word NBC sitcoms were there that were trivia worthy,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
But then once you see Paul, I think if you knew Paul Reiser, that's a guarantee for you. All right, Wheeler Peak. Have you been to Wheeler Peak, Toto?
I have not. I am always telling my wife that New Mexico is my dream state, and she has
Dream
no idea
state,
why.
really.
I love the climate of the American Southwest, and I just love the idea of New Mexico. Um, I'm like Jack Kelly from Newsies. I love the idea of New Mexico.
Well, go check out Wheeler Peak whenever you're there. Drops to Jupiter is the answer that everyone seems to know. I just heard this song on the radio yesterday. Still as much of an earworm as it was 22 years ago. It's been stuck in my head. So I don't know if this was some kind of kismet you had or when you wrote these questions,
Hey,
but
hey,
I'm
we
glad
should.
it-
This is number 20. I didn't even realize it was coming
Oh,
up
here we
this
go. Having
fast.
so much fun, but it comes down to who's making this cut.
Oh,
Andrew
oh
comes with the
no! It doesn't look like.
Ooh,
Oh,
wow.
wow!
Rowan just snuck in there
No,
by
you know what I think
one.
happened? I think if Zach had gotten a purely better score, it would have kicked Rowan out. But because they tied, it rounded up. I think Zach
Ah.
saved Rowan.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Zach, being such a good human. And poor Dr. Dave, who was so happy to finally make one cut, is the first one out on the second round. Oh, man,
Oh,
that is brutal.
that is brutal.
Man. And a lot of people not loving lupus at the end. I mean, who likes lupus? But a lot of people angry at lupus for costing them their big time. But let's look at who did make it. Andrew led the way. Ben right behind. A new player to you, Toto Bue, or BWEH, however you pronounce it, is
Yes,
right there as
very
well.
strong finish.
Then Hopai, Greg, and Kyle, a couple of usual suspects. Patrick, Evan, who able to sneak through, and then Zach and Rowan round out what's going to be our next round. Yeah, good times.
Yes, Patrick was a Final Four. I always remember. I can't say that on the air. Was our fastest four in beta tournament number two.
If we're paying any lawsuits, they're coming out of your pocket. Not mine.
That's right. That's right. Yes. Good thing I'm still doing this while our viewership is lower. Won't make that mistake again. Yeah. So Patrick Nolan was in our fastest four last tournament, and I'm looking up and down the list. As what there was someone else. Evan, obviously. Rowan, obviously. And sorry, the last one eludes me right now. Okay, so we've got the field set. And we're off to the races.
All right, here we go. So, if you missed us earlier, if you're just jumping in now, we started with over 30 players. The first set of questions, after 20 questions, the top half made it to the next round. Then the top half of those, we did it all over again, were culled, and now we are in our third round trying to figure out who's going to make it to our fastest four, at which point this format goes out the window, and a bad start for our bottom four players who did not get that one right. And we've got only only three people that are at par or better. After this, you guys see that cut line. Top four go on to face each other head to head, best of three, to crown our champion tonight. And already we're early in the going here. And how many three-letter car producers could there possibly be in the world? BMW, everybody knew that one.
I'm very shocked that Evan got the first one in -7, but was slowest out of everyone on BMW, which, like you said, like how like the letters make it so obvious in that one, but unfortunately I wasn't tuned into his keyboard at the moment. Let's hope some of our viewers caught that.
Well, the good thing too is that for in his position, if you're someone that gets one extremely quickly,
Yeah.
you build yourself a little bit of a
Oh no,
cushion.
this is
And
Evan
obviously,
Lynch we're talking about. Like, yeah, anything he relents to his field of is anything he concedes to his field is a pure act of gentlemanship. Like there, he concedes nothing in the grand scheme of scoring.
All right, another one, another rote math question that a lot of people caught, and now a lot of folks. Wow, that was a good one by Bue.
Yes.
10-second cushion, got that in 5 seconds to jump momentarily to the top of the leaderboard. But Evan, with that cushion that he built before, jumps right back in there too.
A lot. Wow.
Wow.
Only two players even got that. That's a subject of AP Euro. I remember the pragmatic sanction. Like I actually remembered that.
A tricky thing to type too, not like a very common letter distribution for that one. So nice job typing that quickly, but also just remembering it too. This is more up most people's alley when you think of trivia. Is you're always going to have your Beethoven, and for Elise, yep, everybody got that as expected. All right, so right now, I mean, Andrew is maybe one or two quick questions away from making this a blowout top three and leaving the last spot to be the big battle. Because right now, Evan and Bue are the ones that are head and shoulders above everybody else.
Andrew struggled on that Ibsen one though. Players were coming in 4 or 5, 6 strokes ahead of him on that one. That was a strange miss.
All right, at this point, you're waiting for the hook, right? Most populous city. There's probably 4 or 5 around the world, and you're just waiting for which one is the qualifier. Africa was it. Lagos. Once you saw that, just a matter of how quickly you could type it. All right.
A subset of our questions, the letters help so much, and I always say like it's as much as part of the game as the trivia is. Like the defense wins championships. I always say it. Like the more you see a word in the news, the more you read Wikipedia, just the more you see a word and are familiar with it, like that is its own skill.
And it's
Like the fact that you can recognize Sephiroth without knowing it lends itself to that skill.
right, because this is kind of it's Jeopardy meets Wheel of Fortune, right?
Yes.
And sometimes you just know a word or a phrase, and knowing your brain can think visually with how many letter blocks you need to fill can help you ton. I mean, for this Clint Eastwood, you think of a lot of Clint Eastwood movies. They are not one word movies. So how many could there possibly be? Once you see that it's one block, Unforgiven, and you know Best Picture, it's pretty much that, and there's no other option.
And we see there is a little bit of a Americana bias that is popularly noted and true within many trivia communities that players like Evan may be at a slight disadvantage being more in tune with British culture and
Well,
the British popular culture.
that's
So,
that's the road game. That's
yes.
the non-home field advantage.
And there are even reports of players, I'm not going to name them by name, but I would love for them to come join us, who are dominant in both canons. And what a difficult job that must have been to adjust and learn.
Yeah, to get to both. Well, it's not stopping Evan now because he's tied for first to this point and stays tied for first. Wow, of four people that got that one in just 6 seconds. And check, please, everybody was able to cash that one out. So right now we're just past the halfway point. Zach not looking great for Zach. It looks safe in the top two spots, but still anybody's game to make those final two before the
Absolutely. It's a 17-stroke lead in 7 questions is honestly like two pterodactyls. It's honestly like just two very good plays. It's
yeah. Talk to us at the 5 question mark, at the 10, at the 15. What would you say is an unassailable lead to feel safe at either of those junctures of the game?
I would say a 4 point lead per question is never safe. So meaning 4 for 1 question, 8 for 2 questions, 12 for 3 questions. Uh, and
More
then,
math, Toto.
yeah,
More math.
that would
Jeez.
be the equivalent of a 15 point comeback in the NBA. Like unusual, but probably happens once a week. When you're talking about 5 points per question, then you're in the territory of historic comebacks.
Well, we got 5 questions left right now, and Evan's kind of seen Kyle and Patrick cut into that lead a little bit. We're going back to, and this is tough too when it's multiple words, 3 words, and also a lot of letters per word. That just takes a lot of time to begin with. So maybe being a faster typer becomes the most prominent skill in that situation. But that right there, that cost Evan, for example.
But if you know the game, you also might consider just typing CBC, which would have been accepted.
There you go. The little tricks of the trade that you get when you're in here often enough. Timmy Duncan. Toto, quick tangent. What are you thinking
Oh,
of the Spurs
oh,
soon to
please.
be number
Oh,
one
this
draft
is
pick
evil. You
again?
can't do this to me. You can't get me to start talking about basketball on the air because I'll never stop. And I should be focused on this right now. But I'll give you 15 seconds. I think it's wonderful that I can't think of a better franchise for him to have landed on. And I just really hope they make it work because
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's a running joke on the internet that, like, you're not supposed to be this lucky, right? You're not supposed to only be bad 3 times in 30 years, but those 3 times you landed generational prospects. Like, that's
It's
not fair, right?
incredible.
It's a
David
funny joke.
Robinson, Tim Duncan, and now potentially, most likely, Victor
Yeah,
Wembanyama.
but
Amazing. But hey, let's put that, like you said, aside for something else. We only got a couple questions left.
absolutely. I would love to have host a separate basketball show. That's a subject for a different day. We're
We'll
down
work
to the
on
last 2 questions.
that. Kyle with a big move there was 4 under to now take the lead with 2 questions left.
Look at
That four
Ben Ben
spot. I mean,
sneaking
look at this.
up.
Evan,
Yeah.
Patrick, Ben, Andrew, Greg, Rowan, all very realistically can do
This
this.
this one might be tough. This one's gonna take recognition. This one's all defense. It's just specific enough. Exactly. Yep.
We knew the Carolina barbecue. Patrick sneaks it in. Ben also answered in the same amount of time, but could not make up the ground. All down to the last question right now. Transportation conduit, Midtown Manhattan, Weehawken, New Jersey. I took this tunnel today. Let's see how many people know it that
Oh,
maybe
Andrew.
don't have the
Andrew's
same
getting a little
traffic
slight
that
lead
we
on
do.
it. Ben's catching up. How bad is? Oh, how bad was the damage from Patrick? Oh, the damage was
Whoa,
bad
Patrick
enough in that timeout.
fell. Patrick, what happened?
Patrick took the damage on question 20. What happened? Let's open it up. Viewers can follow along. You can go into questions and see how players answered. So I'm looking at number 20 right now. He went with Brooklyn Bridge, and then it didn't. It took a full 8 seconds later to come up with Lincoln Tunnel. Wow, that's oh my goodness! And just like that, Ben gets the last spot. It's crazy.
Sneaks in right ahead of Andrew. So you see it there. Kyle commanding in first. Boy, 15 behind. Evan, who was struggling there at the beginning, able to sneak in. And then Ben gets the last spot on the dance card, knocking out Andrew, who was just 1 point off. Patrick, who had that big fall late, also 1 point off. And then Rowan, Greg, got Hot Pie, and Zach rounding things out. That's one thing I always wonder about, Toto. And you're in New Jersey here too. And a lot of times with trivia, New York City, because it is what it is, often gets a disproportionate amount of geographic questions, landmark questions like that. And I always wonder, because to me, knowing, Manhattan to New Jersey, it has to be either the Lincoln or the Holland Tunnel or the George Washington Bridge, just a matter of where. But for someone to think Brooklyn Bridge, if you've never been to New York or you don't know that much about the geography, that could be a trickier question than it is for some other people.
Absolutely. And so you've kind of put me on the spot a little because I do in fact write the questions, but that's okay. It's good that the viewers should know that. I'm always trying my best to spread uh, as little bias as possible. I try to be overly inclusive of lesser represented canonical questions as much as possible.
Well, I don't want to make you feel bad or think the viewers that you're doing a bad job. Because if you look at just even looking back on this most recent round, I think you have such a wide breadth of coverage from, I mean, Muslim garments to, BMW to titles of Temptation songs. You've got pop culture, you have Russian literature, you have basketball, you have, Southeastern barbecue, Northeastern transportation. It's a little bit of everything for everybody.
Oh,
So I
thank
certainly
you.
think
That's
no
what I
one
was going
should
for. Yeah,
feel like the questions are poorly written or arranged.
thank you very much.
All right, Toto. So we've got a couple minutes break now before the final round. Give me a scouting report. You know our top four now. Who's going to be facing off against whom? It's best of three, seeding style. So it's going to be Kyle versus Ben, and then Boy and Evan in their brackets on opposite sides. Of what you know of these players so far, what should we look out for?
Yes. So Kyle was incidentally the last of the fastest four. I forgot to mention when we were looking at the games. And yes, so he is very consistent. This is the second fastest four uh, he has won into in a row. B-Way, I hope I'm saying that right. Again, like probably the dark horse of the group. Seeing them around a little bit, but not too sure about their background. And then Evan, of course, the winner of last tournament, complete juggernaut. In one of those cases where it's like the Lakers, it doesn't matter where they're seated, you're going to fear them if they're in your bracket.
Mhm.
And then Ben Chan from Green Bay, Wisconsin, needs no introduction.
And just breaking down, and we'll go with B-Way as the pronunciation. Let's settle on that until we get to meet this player and find out exactly how to pronounce their name. If you look at their performance that last round, started off 6 over out of the gate. Seemingly, you hate to see that much red out of the gate when you go, but then just 4 questions later, had a -10, which shot them right back into competition. And then look at all the pristines. Was it 8 different pristines? That's 8 different extra bonus points that put them in that 2 spot and got them that safety. And there's no necessarily home field advantage being the 2 seed over the 3 in that middle matchup, but that opportunity to type that quickly and that well, it adds up and gives you that extra comfort and maybe a little bit of that breathing room and a relaxation time before you go into these one-on-one battles now.
Absolutely, and thank you very much for pointing that out. I was not even thinking of this show this to our viewers. Inside the scorecard, it's completely dynamic viewing. You can look at how a single player performed throughout their score sheet. You can see what their guesses were and at what time stamps, which is very nice. Or you can look horizontally across the same question, seeing like, okay, how did everyone do on the same question? So it's very much a scoreboard experience.
Yeah, and it's stats that we love, and we're seeing Jeopardy trend more in that direction. If you are a sports fan as well, you love anything you can break down in numbers. And so I'm just digging into Kyle right now to see what that dominant performance was like. And surprisingly, let's count it up here: one, two, three, four, five of the 20. So breaking down a huge percentage of their questions answered were not in the green. It was either in the red or right at par, but goes to show you that if you make up enough ground when you do get the question right in quickly, you can still end up with a 15-point cushion at the top spot going into the final.
Absolutely, just one of those cases. I know it sounds like a broken record, but defense wins championships. Recognition is so important. It's like it's the trivia sub game within the trivia sub game, because how many times have we played in a format where it's like I can kind of see the answer in my head, and how that differs from a perfectly confident guess. And I think this game does a really good job of conveying that in a fair way. Not everything's binary. You either get it or you don't. It's like the extra amount of confidence you have in your answer is rewarded
Right.
on a gradient scale.
Not just do you get it or not, but how well do you get it or how well do you not? All right, let's kick things off, baby. First matchup of the fastest four. We got Kyle, who was that number 1 seed after round 3. Ben, who was the 4 seed. And we're off to the races. First question in the books. And Kyle opens up a 5-point lead. What was Ben's penalty there? I missed it. I was looking at Kyle on
I
my
was
side.
also missed it because I was posting the bracket. I'm so sorry. We will come back and analyze it later on.
All right, well, right back in the game, though, is Ben with the pristine bonus. And we had ourselves a bit of a tie there. But now, and this is now just a 10-question sprint. This is not 20 questions anymore. You can't really have time to settle down. You can't think, oh, by the midpoint, I can make a big second half comeback. No, we're gunning right out of the gate, and you don't have much time to get yourself acclimated for this. We're going to the Tonys now. Ben Platt.
That was huge.
Evan Hansen, as you can imagine,
He
role
had
that made him famous, and a pterodactyl for Kyle, big time.
Ooh, that's a 9-point swing. That is, yeah, that's what's one of those cases where Ben, of his own namesake, did not recognize that particular.
He tried
theater
late,
star.
but just ran out of time. I saw he was able to type PL in time, but that's just not going to do it. And Brad Pitt, wow, nice job again. Kyle's feeling himself right now, almost halfway through, and has himself a 10-point cushion.
Back-to-back pop culture questions with BP actors.
Oh,
I don't know if that means anything, but
look at that.
we might have to check our random number generator on that one.
Brad Pitt just did an awesome cameo in Dave, the season finale. If anybody watches that show,
shout out to I do watch that show. I haven't watched this last season.
Well, enjoy that. He was fantastic. Ben is going in the wrong direction. You do not want to see a plus next to your name in this game at any point. but especially not in the one-on-one section. We're over halfway through, and now we're talking French people who were guillotined, and I would never have gotten a pristine on this because I just cannot spell French words or names that well. But look at both of these guys did that perfectly.
Yes, Ben Ben made up one stroke. He'll have to make up about three or four per question the rest of the way.
Yeah, well, he did made up one there, but like you said, back to the math we talked about earlier, about 3 or 4 per question is realistically possible. But again, that's when you're going up against a lot of people just trying to be in the top half. Right here, you just have to be the person on top. And right now, that chips into that lead a little bit. Ben
Sports
with the
is
minus one.
definitely Ben Ben's forte, and Arthur Blank. Oh, huge!
Ooh,
Pulls it to within one on a single
we are
question.
right back in a whole new game. 1 point difference, 2 questions to go. What a start to the fastest four, game one. I'm pumped. I don't even want to say anything. I just want to watch.
Oh,
All
Kyle
right. Ben
took
kept
one
it close
point.
enough. Within two, anything could happen this last question. Culture is a huge, and we're going Philippine culture.
Yes, if anyone has seen this on YouTube, it's very impressive and very nice to look at. This particular dance. Let's see if either of these players have ever recognized it.
Who can get it in time? If
Oh,
anybody,
and that
no
favors
one,
Kyle.
which means that
Knifling.
Kyle keeps the lead, puts it on ice, didn't have to do a thing. They just had to wait each other out and wins game one.
Shout out,
Wow.
yeah, shout out to anyone who has ever seen that dance. These two have not, but would have made a difference.
Wow. They taught us that in my 5th grade music class, and I remember dancing it, but I could not remember the
Oh
name.
wow, so you're more exposed to it than 99.99%
Yeah,
of
why
our
why
peers
we had
then.
it in the curriculum, I couldn't tell you. Central New Jersey schools love the arts and culture, I guess, but obviously, neither Ben Ben nor Kyle was familiar with it. Running out of time, both of them. But wow, that
Wow.
was not what I expected to end. Sometimes you just don't lose as
Yeah,
opposed
no,
to
I
win.
think we've had a number of dramatic finishes in both our previous tournaments, but I don't seem to remember any ending dramatically. Basically, like the Rocky and Apollo scene, right, where it's like who can get up from not being counted to 10
Exactly. Yeah,
faster, right? Yeah, I don't think
you're
we've seen
not
a question
winning.
like
You're just
that.
avoiding losing.
Yeah.
All right. How much time do they get between game one? Oh, here we go. They're starting here right now. So this game's about to start in 3, 2, and 1. Kyle, Ben, round number 2. Now, if Kyle can win this one, it's best 2 out of 3. Moves on to the final. Ben needs this to force game 3.
All right. So let's see if. All right, Kyle had a hunch and he went with it. Saw the letters; they seemed to line up.
And good on Kyle because he started typing. I already forget because I was so focused on the rest of the question. Typing a different dog breed, had enough time to get that answer out, and then still get the correct answer and spell it pristinely, and an 11-point lead to open things up. That's going to be a huge swing for Ben to overcome.
Well, oh, no immediate recognition of any of these politicians, but Kyle got there.
And again, reform is enough. You don't got to spell out both words. That's one of the tricks of the game. If you're a veteran here, be able to just get that in and send that on its way. Get that package in the mail as soon as possible. Still, though, now a 16-point gap. Kyle just adding to his lead a fifth of the way through.
This is
All right.
probably one of those pure Wikipedia questions. I'd be very shocked if anyone was, well, more credit to them if they just knew that based on the knowledge of the subject, but you're probably going to get it from an educated guess.
Right. And once you see a couple of the letters fill in, there are only so many, tribes and native peoples that could have fit that. And that's what it looked like Kyle ended up doing. 18 points now is the lead. I think these next 2 questions are Ben's really only chance to try and get within shouting distance here. Craig David was the soundtrack of my high school days. Obviously, Kyle knew that as well. And Ben, it just looks like it's not his night.
Yeah, 21, 23 strokes, sorry, with 5 questions to go. It's possible. It would have to. It would require a New England over Falcons level effort. But, yeah.
28-3. Never forget it. All right, well, this is a start.
This
He
is a
got it
start.
in 4 under, and Kyle's still trying. All right, so there's 5 points that chopped in there. It's pretty much what he has to do, 4 or 5 every time the
Yep.
rest of this way. So step one, Ben, you're on the journey.
All right.
All
So
right.
American stage actress. Oh, this should pin it. And oh,
Nice job
that's the
with the
spelling.
pristine to add the extra spelling. A lot of people think there's an I in Chenoweth. There is
This is a
not.
great time to remind the audience that in tournaments right now, we do not allow for spelling forgiveness for the moment. This is for competitive balance reasons. It's an issue we may revisit in the future, but in case viewers were wondering why it didn't give Ben Ben the credit for being close enough, that system is currently not in place for tournaments.
Send all your angry emails to Toto Zhang, commissioner at Par Live. I think this is all but elementary for Kyle at this point. We've got 2 questions left to go. As long as he gets them right, that should wrap it up and put a nice bow on this gift of a trip to the finals.
Yes. 18 points if Ben Ben. No, I was going to say if he Hails Mary right there, but
Yeah, it would
not
have
not
had
a
to
bad.
have
These are
been.
not bad guesses for.
I mean, at that point, you're just typing every baseball catcher you've ever heard of, right?
So I
And
want this one was a little evil on my part.
because
I
it could
knew
there's 2
Pudge would
Pudges. It is
exactly.
Ivan Rodriguez or
He is
Carlton
also
Fisk. It is a
Pudge.
bit evil.
Exactly, but because of the other clues, the year and the other nickname, it's actually my college roommate's favorite player of all time, Carlton Fisk.
There you go. Well, looking at the wrap up here, yeah, Ben just never stood a chance. The first 3 questions were all over par, and by that point, Kyle was able to get 2 of those 3, both at 4 under. Just too big of a hole, too fast. And then at that point, when you're only doing a 10-question sprint, it's just a matter of keeping that just arm's length distance enough, and that's all Kyle had to do to cruise into the finals on a 2-game to nothing sweep. Nice stuff.
And for the viewers right now, I'm just demonstrating our ability to click into profiles of players. You can see a little bit about what they're all about, lifetime stats, lifetime games, and this will be where it reminds us that you get very special achievements. And in Kyle's case, finishing in the top 4 in the last tournament. So he has already earned himself another one of those, and let's see if he can add the coveted championship achievement and in the future money.
Yeah, well, that's coming soon. For now, Kyle will have to just settle for the glory
Oh,
and the
the
achievement and the
trophy,
accolades.
like you know how I operate. The trophy is every bit as meaningful.
So Kyle awaits, and if you were looking at his profile, like Toto was showing you, a beautiful picture of, I'm assuming, Kyle's baby child, ready and waiting. But do not let that beautiful little sunglassed face fool you. Kyle is a killer, waiting in the finals for someone, one of these two, Evan or B-Way. This match starts right now. 10 seconds or 10 questions again to see who can make their way one step closer to the final. Best of 3, just like it was for the last one. What I
All
love
right.
about Evan, too, no profile pictures, just a default robot. Evan's here just to play trivia, win, and move on. But he's going to start behind to kick things off, as
Yes.
B-Way was able to sneak a 1-point advantage.
That question was more of a lateral thinking question. Which countries might have islands arranged north to south, and then what is the name of the northernmost island?
And now we go from that to music and System of a
Oh,
Down. Wow,
wow.
no toxicity in this city for B-Way. And this is, like you said before, this is
I don't.
something
Is
where
this
Evan
American
maybe doesn't
bias
know it
though?
that
Is
quickly.
this though? They're world famous. I don't know.
It's funny though, because I was just talking to my wife the other day. Kiss from a Rose by Seal, one of the biggest songs of the 90s here in the US. I thought because it was in a Batman movie, super famous internationally, she'd never heard of it. So sometimes we do take some of that stuff for granted, but it worked out in B-Way's favor there. But now Evan right back is able to cut into that lead by 6 strokes. So be careful. Evan's demise very prematurely publicized.
Yeah, and Bway very very good defense there, mitigating the damage. Evan clearly knew it more quickly, but it's important to, again, and this is another example. You need to mitigate that damage. Yes.
Right. You can spill the milk, but don't just let the whole carton just empty onto the floor. You can save half a gallon and still have less to clean up later. We're halfway through, and it's about almost as close as it gets. A 1 point difference. And American treasure Ted Danson is the answer here.
Okay, to
And
be fair,
Evan
this
maybe is at a
one,
handicap again.
yeah, this one, to be fair, this is probably more Americana than System of a Down.
Well, because you probably know Ted Danson around the world from Cheers or The Good Place, maybe Curb Your Enthusiasm, but Becker is a much deeper cut.
That's deeper, yes.
I don't think that was in syndication too many places around the globe. Only in this game can you go from Ted Danson to Uday Hussein in back-to-back questions, but that's exactly what we did there in the span of about 15 seconds. And now we have B-Way with a 7-point lead, 4 questions to go. And Dub Bears
Oh,
gives
our
him
Chicago-based player base are collectively kicking themselves for not getting that question.
getting as far as they could to be able to last that long. Exactly. All right. Well, still a chance for Evan here, just 7 points down. And now 8. So that is what you do not want to do, is go the opposite direction. Not a bad score there by Evan, but BYU just one tick faster. And at this point in the game, that means everything. Oh, wow. A huge jump by Evan, but there's your defense again.
Yeah. Statistics is my line of work, so that was near and dear
You've
to
got to
me.
hate if you're behind seeing a short word, because the person ahead of you is going to probably be able to figure it out, quickly enough to not let the clock tick that far ahead.
And there it is. DeMariano sent in from the bullpen. As soon as the leading player gets it first, you know it's over.
It is a wrap. Wow. So B-Way, who is kind of the dark horse in this competition because we don't know much about them, is definitely making their name known. Got out to that huge start. Evan closed the gap there in the middle rounds, especially their questions 7 and 9. But then, like you said, brought in the hammer, enter Sandman, and that was B-Way already saying on to the next, ready to try and close Evan out in game 2.
I'm looking at B-Way's profile right now. Been a member since March 10th, but only played 20 games lifetime. I'm so confused. I mean, I could go into admin mode and look up the email, but I'm not going to do that right
yeah,
now.
let's let them have this. I like this mysterious,
this is crazy.
layer of mystery.
And for our viewers, 20 is the minimum games you have to play to be ranked. So whoever this is was just like, all right, I'm just going to get ranked and then just never do anything again except show up to a tournament and dominate.
Incredible. And a career, if you're looking at the profile, a career 4-4 record in one-on-one, but right now has a 1-0 lead on one of the dominant players in this game and a chance to now make it into the final. Let's see if they can do it.
If I were a betting man, I actually think, but that's the thing. I don't know anything about B-Way.
Right. You can't handicap this. You don't know what their specialties are, what they don't like. Whereas someone like Evan, maybe is a huge political person because they just got a pterodactyl on question 1 coming out to shoot. All right. Do you think, you've seen Evan play. Are you confident that this is going to game 3?
Oh, I'm sorry. I just got a message from Paul that said they are telling me who B-Way is in the Twitch channel.
Oh, please.
So I'm trying
to get into those comments, baby.
B-Way is one syllable.
Boy, okay. So we had it right at the first place. Thanks for the confirmation, everybody. Now we can know for sure that we got it right. Well, Boy right now is down 3. These guys, they're just trading haymakers back and forth. No one decisive question yet. And I don't think West Side Story is going to be the one that puts too much gap between them. But 2 costly seconds. Boy had a little misspell there on the word side. I think trying to type a little too fast for their own fingers. We know anything else about this player, Toto?
I'm trying to. Okay, I'm gonna do a bad job of interpreting this on the air. So I'm gonna let the mystery build a little bit. At the risk of not embarrassing myself.
Just overtook the lead, and even with Evan getting the bonus point on the pristine, Boy had already canceled it out and just jumped ahead by 2 points now. The Prince and the Pauper. This could be the crowning of a new prince of this game with Boy, if he can keep this up. Hadouken! Love this one. The number of times I've heard this on an
Fun to
arcade game
say,
of
even
my
funner to
youth.
perform.
Oh, incredible. And looking for a finisher now with 4 questions to go is Boy. 5 point lead. I think this is the point where even someone as seasoned as Evan has to be feeling a little bit nervous.
And boy, picked the wrong resource. I could see how when you see those strings of words, you automatically gravitate towards wood, but it was in fact brick because
And he got locked out too. That cost him a point there, which now is the same amount between them. What an answer, though.
oh wow.
That's what a good competitor does. A great one does. You go from a penalty and losing the lead to going ahead by 6 with 2 questions left. That was huge.
Prey, huge. I just great callback to if he bleeds, we can kill it.
But
Wonderful
look at
line.
this. Evan with
Right
an
back.
answer, getting a pterodactyl of his own.
Just
Wow.
like that. Oh my
All
goodness
right.
gracious. 1 point.
Every other question
One
doesn't
more
matter.
question. Let's
This is
go.
it. Classical music, and we don't know again
Tone
if this is a
poem.
strength for
Does
Boy
anyone
or
know what
not.
a tone poem is? That might have given it away.
Oh, Boy's locked out. That could be the end of it for him. That could have cost him too much. And Evan with
Oh
a massive
no.
comeback, a
What a
pterodactyl,
comeback.
drop the hammer.
He wasn't locked
Wow.
out the whole time. He could have put in a different answer, but it just didn't react. Wow, yeah, if we can look at the running totals on question 8 after Prey, Evan was down by 6 and then ended up winning by 10.
That's why. Well, that's
Crazy.
what happens when you get 2 in a row back to back by 7 points. I mean, wow, that is
That
great
was
stuff.
that was oh, if Boy ends up losing the series, this could be a Derek White moment, right? Like
Yeah,
if Boston had won, Miami would be kicking themselves over the Derek White shot for the rest of their
sliding
franchise.
doors, exactly.
But
But
because Miami pulled it out, all of a sudden it doesn't feel so bad. So this is just like that.
well, the thing now, I think if you're a new player, newish, like Boy is, again, only 20 games ever played. And Evan, I mean, how many, what's he up to?
I in the thousands
Thousands,
easily.
right?
He
So
plays he plays solo mode by himself in the middle of the night. For like several games in a row. He is a machine.
whatever gets you through those long, dark hours of the
No, I,
early morning.
I I love it. It's Mamba mentality. Like we give you the medium to practice. Like you gotta do those legendary Kobe 5 a.m. workouts.
But that's now where I think that experience now comes into play, not necessarily in knowing the questions. And this game's about to start right about now, 3 seconds from now. It's the pressure because now Boye was cruising, but now you see Evan like Jason Voorhees lurking up behind you, and maybe Evan feels a little bit more comfortable now. And we see him getting off to a massive start already with that pterodactyl 3 point lead.
Boy had graining, but flub the type probably cost himself 1 or 2 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that was one too where you put Groening's more famous shows toward the end of the
Yes,
question.
exactly.
So if you know that first show, maybe that gives you a little bit of a bonus, but then it's a matter of how quickly you can type a tricky name to type.
Yes.
All right. Who married John Cross?
Mary Ann Evans, also known as George Eliot.
Man, I almost when it's a game 3 like this and they're so close, I almost don't want to comment. I know it's our job, but
I
I
know
know it's
it
going to
is it
spike
is
a lot.
so. And look at that. That was Americana that went in the favor of
So
Evan.
Sandra Bullock is the world's sweetheart. She's not just America's
I
sweetheart,
was gonna
but
say maybe there's some secret, like you know how some foreign markets look at different movies different, like Speed 2 Cruise Control might be The Godfather in some country
yeah, it
somewhere.
could be the
Yeah.
Citizen Kane of the UK for for all that we know. They both get Voltaire, and we're halfway through. 10 point lead for Evan, and you got to think if you're Boy that these next 2 questions you got to make a big move. But that I mean, you made as big a move as you could. You get
Evan was right
9
there
under, and
behind you.
Evan's
Yep.
right there playing defense right behind you. There's got to be that one mistake from Evan because as good as Boy is, if Evan's on the peak of his game, he's just as good and certainly good enough to not let you chomp into that lead.
Wow, Evan had that. He sat on red for a good 2 or 3 seconds there. He wanted to play it safe. It ended up being a tie. Don't know if that'll
That's the
make the
luxury when you're up
WTA.
by 9 points
Yeah.
is you can maybe
Play
wait
a,
those extra 2 seconds, knowing that it's not going to cost you that much.
oh, okay.
Yeah, that's going to cost
Extend the
them. That's a
lead.
point. A lot of from red to doom, a lot of short words here. We saw in the pool play a lot of long answers, and that's
Once
exactly
again,
what Boy
you
needed.
minus
But
8, but he's just
Evan's
right
right
there behind
there.
you.
That's got to be frustrating. If I'm Boy, I'm slamming my fist on the keyboard right now after that because I feel like my clock is ticking and it's getting louder with every second.
What?
Same thing.
Same
Wow.
thing. Only able to make now they're the cursors have gone completely off the charts, so you can't see the difference. It's 7 strokes on. Uh, you can't
Rory,
slip anything past the
there's
goalie. Like it just Evan's just
nothing
right there on top of
else
it.
you could do.
That
I mean,
was just stellar. Oh my goodness, just stellar step to step defense every step of the way. Just protecting that slimmest of leads.
so question three was the swing. Who knew Sandra Bullock would be maybe the talisman for this entire tournament? Because that's when he was able to open up the 6 stroke lead, the 6 point lead, and then it was just defense. Stayed within one on question four, one on five, even stayed within two on eight, within one on nine, and then again one on 10. It was just a classic get ahead and then take the air out of the ball, park the bus. Like you said, nothing gets past the goalie. And once you had Sandra Bullock in your pocket, after that, it was just keep the opponent at
Unbelievable.
arm's length.
Unbelievably played by both players, honestly. It's like you said, like from Blade's perspective, what more can he do? Like I'm getting -7s and -8s. Like what more can I do?
Yeah, I'm sure if you told Boy, I wonder if he would have taken it before. Hey, you're gonna have a -56 in that game. You would have definitely taken it. I mean, game number one, they were -28. Game number two, they were -35. You have to think, if I'm gonna be in the 50s, I'm gonna cruise. And it wasn't enough.
It's just one of those
Lost 56 to
old-fashioned
50.
'80s shootouts. It's back when the score was 146 to 143.
Yeah, seriously, like when Wayne Gretzky was scoring
Oh yeah, in
95
hockey,
goals a
perfect
year.
analogy. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, good stuff. Great match. They were saying in the chat, just great match. And it was when you that's what you want, ideally, in a best of three in any series, is for the last game, the deciding game, to be a close one too. You don't want to blow out in the end. And that is not what we got at all. Incredible stuff. The tension that there toward the end. And hey, learning experience for Boyer, right? Only played 20 games
Yeah.
before this. I think maybe wet the beak a little bit. Got a little taste of that blood. Wants to come back for more next time. We
Oh,
shall see.
certainly. Boy will definitely be making quite a splash in the future. Already earned their first fastest four badge, and plenty more of those to come.
All right, so we got the finals coming up. This is best of three again. It's Evan. It's Kyle. Scout it for me, Toto. What can we expect out of these two players? What should we be
So
looking
this
for?
is this is I believe. Let me sorry. Let me look. This is, I believe, a rematch of the last finals. I should know that off the top of my head. I'm trying to just confirm that based on record keeping. It's anyone's game. I know I'm just ducking the issue, but yeah, this is a toss up. I
Anyone's game doesn't give us much insight. Any particular categories that you recall from previous tournaments that these are guys are either really strong in or maybe aren't that
I'm
well
sure
versed
I'm
in?
sure there is, but I feel like this is just game 7, like nerves of steel. Every letter counts. It's just like when you're rebounding. Every effort counts. Every tip of the ball matters. Right here is every little letter counts. It's just gonna come down to that, and we'll
This I
just
wonder. Have any of them? We've got a minute now until we kick this thing off. Have any of the players of this game given you any insight into? Is there an advantage playing the first of the fastest four matches versus the second in terms of adrenaline or resting your typing fingers or getting something to drink? Has there been any kind of marked advantage or pro or con to being in either slot?
so basically the rest versus rust analogy. I haven't. I know that Rowan has talked about how difficult it is to master transitioning from high intensity to lulls. But excuse me, Rowan is very strong at that, and we're off.
Here we go. Beethoven is not the answer, Kyle, but Stephen Foster is, and Evan was just waiting in the weeds to jump right on in there and opens up a 3-point lead. So we have the Avatar robot versus the adorable baby. This seems like some kind of weird post-apocalyptic, post-utopia, dystopian matchup here, but so far a robot out ahead and
And they
keeps a
tie.
3-point
Yep.
lead.
Although, but here we can see an element of strategy. Kyle, by typing Kim, gets credit for the pristine because one of the conditions is that the word has to be longer than 8 letters. So that is a
Mm.
risk you can take as a player, but he ended up getting 1 extra point because of that.
Yeah, and then you start balancing it out. How big of the word is the word, and is it worth getting that extra point for the amount of time that it might take you to type it up?
Yep.
The Murray River goes Evan's way, and he's flowing out to a 9-point lead now. We're at question 4. Kyle has the 1 penalty stroke now. Evan, a bit of an Iceman. He's not going to let those penalties really knock him that much.
Oh, that is deep cut knowledge, and
Mm,
Evan gets rewarded accordingly. That
wow.
is, you have to really know that book inside and out, or at least
Yeah.
seen one of the 2 or 3 movies.
Right, yeah. If you've watched Leonardo DiCaprio recently, I would not have remembered that. And I read that book in high school. I've seen the movie a couple times. Good on
I'm
them.
not gonna lie, I actually remember that from high school on because that's to me like Jordan and then like Baker, like Vin Baker, like that was a no brainer for me.
That's yeah, a nice personal association.
Yeah.
George Santos, who might claim that he's the one who's winning this par tournament tonight.
Yes.
He's not, but
Champion
good on
of Beta
Evan
3
for knowing.
tournament, George
Yeah, he's
Santos.
the greatest undefeated par player to ever play. Evan, though, used that one to get a huge opening now. And I hate to say it if you're Kyle, but Evan with a 14-point lead, sorry, 16-point lead with 4 questions left. I don't want to say it's over, but I think it's over.
I cannot believe that Evan knew this. I consider this possibly the hardest question in the entire tournament deck. And
Wow.
Evan just minus nined it like it was nothing. Like he sees this question all the time. This man, Efren Reyes, apparently is the greatest billiards player of all time. Like he makes Don Bradman look like Wilt Chamberlain. Apparently that's how dominant he is in pool.
See, with that, we talked about how it's maybe a disadvantage to be. And we had players I saw on our world map earlier in Bangladesh, in the South Pacific, and Australia. Evan, obviously, in the UK. Billiards is huge there, way bigger
Absolutely.
than it is here.
That's why I wanted this question to be in the deck because I wanted to just give a shout out to anyone who's familiar with that culture, but but the connection, just the fact that you could be and then here's this guy who just knows that off the top of his head like it's nothing, like he's recalling what he ate for breakfast.
Right.
This is
Like us
amazing.
knowing Babe Ruth or Michael Jordan, kind of that same right off the cuff knowledge. Incredible. Well, it's all done but the parade here in game 1. And Evan, even with a +2, cruises to a comfortable, dominant 23-point win in game number 1 of our best of 3 final.
So if I actually were able to offer any hard-hitting analysis instead of speaking with platitudes in the pregame,
And
like I
besides
like
Kyle in the chat
yes,
saying
I'm
woof, which
being
is about
told
as
that
hard hitting
Evan
as it
is
gets.
outrageously strong in sports just in general. So if I had done any homework, I could have told you that. But the audience is helping me, so that's still
Well,
incredible.
Well, the 2 big swings were Great Gatsby. That was a 9-pointer that added to Evans' lead. And then, like we talked about it at length already, the Efren Reyes was 9 more points. And if you're going to outscore someone twice in one 10-point or 110-question matchup by 9 plus, I can't think of many scenarios where you would not end up winning that one every time.
Absolutely, yeah. That's an insurmountable. That's basically if you have two 90-yard plays in a football game. Like the other team can still win, but it's going to take a Herculean effort.
And then, like Kyle just said too, he blanked on Stephen Foster's name on question 1, and that set the tone for the rest of the game. Yeah, it's tough. Evan, he's like Iceman in Top Gun. Doesn't make mistakes. If you let him get ahead, good luck trying to make it back up. And then I also think psychologically that puts you in a hole because you think, man, 10% of the questions here I just boofed on, and you start spending maybe a question or two thinking about messing up that one and not focusing on the one in front
But
of you.
that's where the empty platitudes come in handy. That's where nerves of steel really do help. So
Cliches are cliches for a reason.
Yes.
Bryan Cranston makes an appearance. We talked about New Mexico before in Breaking Bad, but this is taking them
Uh-oh.
back to
Is there
Malcolm in the
a
Middle days. Ooh, and see,
is
this is
that a
where you
mistake? Is it actually BRY? Hold on, let's consult the judges. Because everyone thought it was BRY, but
well, while you do that, what he could have done was just go with Cranston, right? And that would have been
yeah,
enough.
but
So that's where Evan's
it is
experience maybe
BRY. Oh
comes in.
goodness. All right.
Uh-oh.
All
Well,
right, so we'll have to go to the judges after the match. It's unavoidable. It's like every tournament one thing happens, even though I comb over the answer key with a fine-tooth comb.
you can talk to almost any sports franchise, any actor or actress that has been snubbed at the Oscars. Things always go wrong as well as you might like to plan them, and this is just one other thing. We'll see if it ends up making a difference in the game. Kyle's going to continue playing, obviously, uh, as if that is going to stand. But right now, it's Evan with a 7-point lead, and at this point, runs out of time, so it's right
Wow,
back
right
to
there.
nothing. Wow.
Oh, I guess I would like to remind viewers that, like, at present, we don't consider it the worst thing for small mistakes to appear, so we can demonstrate that the format is conducive to a fair method of resolution. So it's not the worst thing in the world. It's so hard to catch everything on every single question sometimes, unfortunately.
Don't be so hard on yourself, Toto. It's a fantastic competition so far tonight. Don't let Bryan Cranston haunt you in your sleep. Fallout Boy gives Kyle a lead right now. And this is where I think Evan's American pop culture knowledge, it's not that it's non-existent, but it's just not as quick as someone like
Jiminy Jillikers to that clue is all I can say.
We're at question 7, and remember, if Kyle ends up winning this thing, then that Bryan Cranston issue won't even matter because he was the one that suffered from it first. But right now, Cadbury, no ground made up there for either guy. 3 questions left. Kyle looking to tie this. Evan did win game number 1. It's a best of 3, and we've already had one epic best of 3 tonight, third game. Would love to see one more.
Yes, and all right, both players recognizing that one at roughly equal tenor.
Yeah, from hush puppies to falafel. We love all fried foods here on the show.
Oh, too much, yes, unfortunately.
The Enlightenment subjectivist philosopher, and
Ooh,
Evan was all over
he
it, cutting
was,
two
but
strokes
good
into
defense
Kyle's
by
lead.
Kyle, mitigating the damage. Now he still has a 4 point lead going to 10.
Last one. Will 4 points be enough on a 13er here on par on question number 10? And again, Kyle just has to play
There it
defense, but
is.
he doesn't need to. He went offense and jumped on it right away. Nothing Evan could do. Kyle ends up cruising, well, cruising relatively speaking, compared to game 1 and with some of the issues we had there with scoring in the middle, but ends up with an 8-point win.
All right, and I am confirming. So with the judges, which in this case is me, when this gets bigger, hopefully I won't have to be running the show and commentating and judging. But it looks to here just to confirm that Kyle missed out on better score from the mistake of Bryan Cranston being spelled wrong. So no material difference to the result.
All right. In
Which
the end, just
thankfully, yes,
just window dressing. Kyle might have won by
6
9 or
more, 6
10
more.
instead of
Yeah.
by 8. Regardless, irrelevant. What is relevant is that we now have a second straight game 3. This one though is for it all. The championship of tonight, the third ever tournament, a chance to join the hallowed ground here. We have Evan, who's already won one tournament, Rowan, who got knocked out earlier. Can Kyle join that inner circle? We're about to find out right now. Open this baby up. I'm excited, Toto. How you feeling over there?
This is for all the marbles. This is game 3 of the championship. This is everything we could ask for. Let's see how the score bears itself out.
All right. We're looking at Sega consoles. It's either Genesis or Dreamcast, more than likely than not. And Dreamcast is where Evan got to first. 2-point lead to jump out very quickly. Oh, no, jump to a 4 with the penalty on Kyle. So look at that.
All right, this is a financial statement, very relevant because I just graduated with my MBA about this month, technically.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
You knew this one right out of the gate, but both guys
Well,
did
I
as
know all
well.
of them because I wrote all of them, but
That's
yes,
true.
I
Yeah, they
should
all
have
came
known
to
that
you, so
one.
you should know all of them. I'm sure the amount of questions in this game, I'm sure there's some you put in there that maybe over time you forgot.
Oh,
But
no,
right now,
absolutely. In fact, I just played Kyle today and he beat me.
well, there you go. Kyle, that could be circle
That was
question
rough,
number
yeah.
3. Joseph Hayden, that could be the one that cost him the game because Evan now has a gigantic 11-point lead. I know there's a lot of game left, but with a guy this good who plays defense this well, 11 points I think might as well be 50.
It's gonna be tough. He's gonna need a lucky bounce here or there for something extremely in his wheelhouse that is a blind spot for Evan.
We see in these 10 question matchups, questions 5 and 6 are kind of the hinges. And if you're that's where you have to make up ground if you're down by a lot because this lead just keeps growing for Evan now
15, yeah,
15.
this is gonna take quite an effort.
I think if Kyle doesn't cut into knock off at least 5 of this lead here, I think he can say goodnight and wish Evan congratulations on yet another tournament win. Yeah, Evan just added to it, 16 now. I'd love to see a comeback though. I'd love to see Evan or
It
get
has to
Kyle
be
even
it has to be
closer.
Kyle's cousin or something that only he would know.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
Oh,
Kyle, what
oh,
was your
here's a
second
start. Here's
grade
a
teacher's
start.
name?
Okay. All right. Eventually, you're gonna see the helmet clue if you're Evan, and you're gonna get it. Yep.
Boy, yeah. Well, I think we can start. Does Evan have a theme song? Because we'd be playing it right now. I think this is the slow march to coronation. It's like in the Tour de France when the one rider is ahead by so much, and the last is just a day is just a joyful ride through Paris. Evan right now taking a joyful ride. What time is it in the UK? It's 3 in the morning out there, and the guy's as sharp as a tack.
Not for nothing, but Cash Money Records was my favorite record label in middle school.
Taking over for the 9-9 and the 2000,
Yes.
just like Evans taking over tonight. Yeah, there's only 2 Splash Brothers, and they both went for the more popular one. But good job on Evan getting Clay Thompson in enough time. And wow, what do you got to say about Evan, Toto? Because this is his tournament,
This is when you
another
dribble out
notch
the
on the
clock.
belt.
Yep, last possession, you're just dribbling out the clock, and the parade starts a little early, and we just congratulate the. I don't even know what to call him. I want to think of a good nickname, but I'll think of something better. I'll come back to us.
Evan the Eviscerator tonight because he, when it mattered most, put up some massive leads, was able to keep his opponents at bay, just playing defense. And that is the most satisfying way to win this, I would imagine, if you're the player, is jump out early, snuff out your opponent's fire before it even gets a spark, and then just stay ahead the whole time. And with them in your rearview mirror, not getting any closer, you can just take it easy right into the end. Incredible stuff from Evan tonight.
Unbelievable
Second
tournament.
tournament win here on par. Congrats to you, Evan. Late night out in the UK.
Start of a dynasty, and remember, viewers, he was down. What was it, 6 or 7 strokes, going into the last 2 questions, facing elimination against Bway or Boy. We can actually revisit that game by going to the game log. So game two, he was down 6 strokes. Yep, going into the last 2 questions, and he got the swing and he got Danse Macabre, a pair of just classic works of fine arts. That is
Yep.
just amazing.
The result of that match and what ended up being this entire tournament swung on the swing, and Evan went from facing death's door to being our champion once again tonight. Congratulations to Evan. Great stuff from him. Toto, any final thoughts on this tournament that we just saw wrapped up in Evan's favor?
I would love to. I would love if we had the infrastructure for it to be able to interview Evan right afterwards. Like I'm sure it's so easy, but we'll figure it out. Um, but yeah, like that's part of the great appeal is I think we would love to know what he's thinking at this moment. Yeah. Oh gosh, this is everything we could have hoped for and more. Um,
Well, I'm sure what Evan is thinking is, I done all right because he ended up making the cut in all the rounds, getting that game 3 win after nearly being eliminated with 2 questions left in a sweep in game 2 of his fastest 4 side of the bracket. and then ended up taking care of Kyle in 3 games. Again, that third game of the final match wasn't a thriller, but it was just clinical to see Evan do what he does best.
Exactly. It's just like you're just watching the best go at it at that point. That's
Incredible,
part of the
man.
beauty as well. Yes.
All right, Toto, time to say goodnight.
Yeah. Let's sign off.
All right, for Toto Zhang, Commissioner of PAR, my name is Mike Janela. Congratulations to our across the pond dominator, Evan, with the win. Go to bed now, Evan. You can sleep tight knowing that you were the champion of PAR Live tonight. We thank you all for watching and for playing. And if you've been sticking around with us the whole time, hope you enjoyed yourselves tonight. We'll catch you next time on PAR.
See you.